Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Tommy Gilmore with Noisy Bird Digital Marketing. Every week, we talk to a new business owner here in Southern Utah, and I'm pleased to be joined with Blake from Detailed Landscape.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me, Blake. I appreciate it. So, Blake, I'm excited to talk to you. You recently acquired Detailed Landscape, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So, I'm excited to talk to you about that. I don't think I've talked to somebody that bought a business. Most of
Yeah.
the people I've talked to, they started it from the ground up, bootstrap.
hmm
I'm excited to chat with you. Talk us through like your journey. What made you go from you left a 9 to 5, you left something kind of stable,
Yeah.
you jumped in head first and bought a company that had already been established.
Yeah. I had a pretty cushy job. I was an assistant vice president at Morgan Stanley, it's a pretty cushy job. Everything was good. I hated the commute, but that was about the extent of it. Honestly, like entrepreneurship has been in my family for generations. So my great grandpa started selling outboard motors in the back of his home in 1917, and
Wow.
every generation since then has been entrepreneurs. I thought that I wanted to be a doctor, to be a financial advisor, but every time I would think about those things as a kid, I'd always ask my parents, like, "Hey, how do you add more people, or add more doctors, or add more financial advisors?" And I had a light bulb moment within the past year that it was never really about being a doctor, or being a financial advisor, or whatever else. It was always about building something, scaling something. And when I learned that you can actually buy an existing business, that really piqued my interest, especially coming from the finance realm and things. I have a family member who ended up being a business partner of mine who's scaled businesses.
Okay.
And I started asking him some questions, and we ended up working together on getting this one close. So it's really
That's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
And this is brand new. You told me February, what was the close date?
11. So we're on day 22. We're brand new, but Detailed Landscaping's been here serving Iron County and its residents for over 13 years. So we have an established crew, and the work we're doing is still super high quality. I'm just taking the reins from that top position. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we can see we're actually on location, guys. So you can see some of the work that the crew's been doing today. You can see the tree line back here. Some of the other work is back here behind us. I like what you're talking about. Obviously you're jumping in head first, learning as you go as far as the business management side of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, what challenge do you feel like has been the biggest that you've had to overcome in the last almost month now of
Yeah.
I'm jumping in head first. I haven't really done this part of it before.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest challenge or the biggest learn so far?
So I studied project management for my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So that really came pretty naturally. And the numbers, I used to spend every day of my life in Excel. So it's really not too bad on that side. What's been really hard, honestly, has just been finding the right people and putting them in the right spots. Every blue collar business owner is going to tell you the same thing. It's really, really hard. So far, I've interviewed like 20 something people. I've hired, five, and three of them haven't worked out. So, and that's in the past 3 weeks.
So if you're looking for a job, they're hired, right?
We are, yeah, we're hiring. And I like to say one thing to know is outside of these sort of brand new guys, like our established crew's been here much higher than industry average. We really do like to treat you well, but ultimately sometimes the industry does have some dictation on how that works. So I'm not quite used to that coming from my background.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's been really honestly incredible to see what has really worked together. I think one of the greatest parts of the job so far has been really learning some new skills actually in the field. So today, you see behind me, like I dug many of these holes myself for these 25-gallon trees that we were doing over here. Being outside, spending time, learning new skills. I was helping with the turf, which is right around the corner. It's a really cool to learn, but ultimately being a business owner and then being a manager who's running things, those are two different seats. And I feel like being the manager, I'm really learning.
Yeah.
Being a business owner has really come natural to me, to be honest. So far, I'm loving it.
Uh-huh.
But those have been some of the challenges for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like, especially when you're talking about sort of that human part, trying to identify, okay, did I just hire the wrong person for this? Or is there a way I can find a position for them, even if it's not for what I hired them for originally?
Right.
Trying to manage some of that. And obviously that's a little tougher with what you do versus
Yeah.
a bigger corporation or a bigger
Yeah.
business or something like that. But I think the lessons there, if you're watching and you own a business and you're like, hey, I hired somebody, it's not really the right fit. Sure, let them go. Or the other option is try to find something that is a better fit for their skill set.
Yeah, and I'd say one of the biggest successes we've had so far is we've had a crew leader that's been here forever. I mean, he's been here for 10 years, and he was given this title of being a foreman a while ago, but in his day-to-day, it's really just been more of a crew leader.
Okay.
One of the biggest successes that we've had so far is formally given him those responsibilities that have actually been the thing he has earned.
Yeah.
Right? Getting out of the trenches just a little bit more. And I've seen him thrive in these just this past month that we've been working together. So really proud of those decisions, right? I think that sometimes it is about just, can this person, come to the job site at 8 a.m. Right? And for those people, it's really hard to find a spot. But that being said, if you show up on time and you do hard work, and I've been telling my guys, if you're a sponge, you'll be successful at anything in your life.
Totally.
And ultimately, I have guys that I know they're not going to be here for 10 years, right? That being said, like, I want them to be successful. And so some of my guys, they do metal work or they do painting on the side. So I work with them and I say, hey, like, let me help you with that passion as well, because I'm invested in them as a person, as well as hopefully they're also invested in the success of the company. I think it goes two ways. And so I do try to do that.
I love that. I think that that's something that you talked about, corporate America and kind of leaving a corporation. I think that that's one of the advantages of going to a small business, right?
Yeah.
There is a lot of that reciprocity, or there should be, where I'm investing in you as my employee.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you the love. I'm giving you these opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise, because I want you to invest in my business and my dream too.
And they're so close to the action where I can go and I can say, hey, like, if we can finish this within a certain amount of time, that's really going to free us up and we can go do X, Y, or Z. And I've even explained to them, hey, I want to do 1, 2, and 3, but as a new business owner, I need to understand with any project-based business, which any of you who do project-based business would understand, cash flow is a really tricky deal.
Totally.
And so I've just been open and transparent and said, hey, I want to offer X or Y benefit. And I plan on doing so as long as we can reach the targets that I've set to ensure that we're doing this responsibly.
Yeah.
I'm all about giving back, but I'm about doing it responsibly so that you can have responsible and profitable growth in the company.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I love it. I know we got to get back to business. We want to keep the guys working, obviously, too. What's the biggest thing you've learned so far since acquiring the business that you're like, man, if I knew this a month ago, I feel like it would have helped so much?
I knew this a little bit coming in. However, it's just solidified it for me so much. And that is, as an entrepreneur, you always have to do two things. One is have a bias for action. If you have an idea, do it. There are very few one-way doors in business.
Yep.
A lot of them are two-way doors. So if you have an idea, you think through it, go for it. However, the caveat, and this is my second point, is identify the risks and name them. So much we get in our head and we're like, what could happen? A million things can happen. Sit down on a piece of paper and write down, like, what is the worst case scenario and what is the best case scenario?
Yeah.
And then simply identify, is this a two-way door or is this a one-way door?
Yeah.
Because you know what? If it's a two-way door, maybe I lose out on a little bit of money, but I can always back out of that. Or
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of time, but I can back out of that. So I think my two biggest lessons that I've learned, and I know I'm going to continue to learn it in real life application, is have a bias for action and identify the unknown risks.
Yeah.
Right? Put them on pen and paper, really try to figure out what those are.
I love it. Especially for me, I'm kind of an overthinker.
Yeah.
I think a
get
lot of
that.
us
I get
are.
that.
And so if we look at a problem and we're like, hey, this is the absolute worst thing that can happen, this is the absolute best thing that can happen.
Yep.
It's worth it, right?
Yeah.
Or it's not worth it. And
Right.
then we at least know.
Yeah, if you identify it, because I actually used to struggle personally with anxiety, like for most of my life. And the framework that's helped me through my life is actually identifying the true worst case scenario, because what anxiety feels like to some people may feel different to others. But to me, it's not knowing what that future holds, right?
Totally.
And so really just play it out. I always say that my best friend in business is my whiteboard, because I play these scenarios out on my whiteboard
Uh-huh.
all the time.
Yeah.
And it works out really well. So those are my 2 pieces of advice, and hopefully I can stick to them for the future as well.
No, that's great. I
Yeah.
think it's great advice, and something that's really cool, I think a lot of people watching will be interested in, is you're logging your journey as a person that's acquired a business, right?
Yeah.
So that's on Instagram, if I remember right.
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is called My First Acquisition, just one word. And so I post a little quick reel 5 to 6 days a week. And I ultimately am just documenting my journey. So every day I have 2 or 3 takeaways of something that I've learned that day. And you're gonna notice like I'm relearning the same lesson, which all of us do, but it's definitely a real thing. And I mean, yeah, if you'd love to watch that story, I'd be happy to have you follow me. And then if you guys ever have questions, feel free to shoot me a message and I'll address it. I'm all about transparency when it comes to this journey because I think that this is such a valuable thing. And there's going to be a lot of businesses switching hands
Yeah.
from baby boomers that are retiring to the younger generation, or they're just going to close up shop.
Yep.
So if you're interested in buying a business or interested in selling a business, come talk to me as well. I love chatting about that whole process because it was a really long journey and I learned so much. So if any of you guys do want to ever talk about that, I'm happy to chat.
That's awesome. So guys, if that's something you're thinking about, you're like, I don't know what I don't know on the topic. He's obviously been through it. Hit him up there on Instagram. That'll be the
Yeah.
best way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. My first acquisition. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you watching. This has been another episode of Spotlight Southern Utah. We'll see you next week.
Thank